Nothing beats a hearty stew on a cold day, but you can also make stews in summer just lighter, brighter, and packed full of seasonal vegetables. This summer vegetable and French lentil stew is full of flavour, it's nutritious, and it's great for those in-between days when you want something comforting, but also not too heavy. It's a one-pot dish and it's incredibly easy, so let's get cooking. This summery stew has so many vegetables in it that I definitely recommend doing some mise en place and washing, peeling and cutting any vegetables before you start cooking. Starting with one white diced onion, then I've got a couple of medium carrots which I've just washed. Don't worry about removing the peel, and I'm going to give them a quick dice. Also, don't worry about being too precise, as it's going to be a nice rustic stew. Similar sort of size for the celery. Celery can get particularly muddy, so just be sure to give it a good wash. You can add any summer vegetables to this stew, whether it's aubergine, courgette, sweet corn, asparagus, cabbage, it's totally up to you. Just make sure to think about when you're going to add it in the cooking process to ensure it's not too undercooked or overcooked. For example, sweet corn or asparagus I'd add at the end of the cooking, whereas something like cabbage or spring greens I'd add towards the beginning. I've then got some fresh rosemary from the garden and I'm just going to pick it and finely chop it. I also find that if you don't have any rosemary, you can have a walk around your neighbourhood and you'll probably find someone that does have some, and I'm sure they won't mind if you borrow some. Then for the garlic, just crush and finely chop. I'm using some new potatoes as they keep their shape. You could use a more floury variety, but they might break a little into the stew. It's important to make these fairly small to ensure that they cook at a similar time to the lentils. Then one red pepper, roughly chopped. Next I've got some fennel, and I've got an absolute whopper here, so I'm just going to cut it in half and use one of the halves, and we're just going to roughly chop it. I cut them similar to an onion by cutting down towards the core, but not through, and then we're going to do one cross-section cut, and then it should just cut into nice cubes. As always when prepping, make sure to keep your chopping board nice and clear. Next we've got some beautiful mongetu, which my brother actually grew, and they are beautifully sweet and crunchy. So sweet and crunchy. Delicious. These are really easy to prepare, just snap off the end and then you should be able to sort of pull off the stringy bit, and then we're just going to cut them on an angle, and once again, don't worry about being too precise here. These will be going in at the end of the stew so that they keep their nice fresh vibrant colour and crunch. A handful of cherry tomatoes cut in half also to go in at the end. And then lastly, a nice handful of fresh parsley just finely chopped. And there is the mise en place done. Personally, I love to do these pre-preparations just so the cooking process is nice and relaxed and easy. Heat up a good 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil and add in the carrot, the celery, the onion and the fennel. This is a sort of sofrito with added fennel, and we're going to cook it on a medium-low heat for 12 to 15 minutes, or until it starts to soften and goes slightly translucent. The slow cooking releases the sweetness of the vegetables and ensures that the harder vegetables are all cooked through by the end of the cooking time. Next we're going to add in our chopped garlic and rosemary and just cook it for a further minute. I'm using some lovely summery spices such as fennel, sumac and coriander, all of which have a really nice sort of lemony undertone of flavour. I've just crushed the fennel seeds in a pestle and mortar, and then I'm going to add in some ground coriander, turmeric and sumac, which is a beautifully tart and lemony dried red berry spice. Stir these through and let them toast and release their fragrant aromas. Next, add in the potatoes and red pepper. One thing to note here about the potatoes is that the acidity in the chopped tomatoes can prevent them from getting really soft. Personally, I quite like them to have a little bite, but you could give them a quick pre-boil in some salted water before adding them if you'd like them to be slightly softer. I'm using some pui lentils here. Personally, I like to pre-soak them for about 30 minutes just to reduce their cooking time and make them easier to digest. This is optional though, but I would recommend giving them a rinse. Also, you could use another firm lentil such as green or brown lentils. Season it all with salt and pepper and bring to a simmer. We're going to let this cook for about 15 to 20 minutes or until the lentils and potatoes are nearly cooked. You can then add in the cherry tomatoes and cook them for a few more minutes. I'm adding them in towards the end of the cooking as I want them to still be nice and juicy. Lastly, the mange too, and just cook for a few more minutes so that they're slightly softer but still have a nice crunch to them. Now just adjust the seasoning and it is ready to serve. This is a really simply flavoured dish, allowing the beautiful produce to really shine through. I love to just enjoy this on its own and really appreciate the individual flavours of each vegetable, but it's also really good with some pesto or some salsa verde, and of course a bit of crusty bread is never a bad idea. I did also finish it with a little drizzle of olive oil and some fresh parsley. Wow. So much flavour. That is honestly so delicious. It's comforting, but it's still got a lovely summery vibe to it. The lentils, they're earthy, they're soft, they've got a slight pepperiness, and then you get bursts of freshness from those cherry tomatoes and red peppers. And then finally, you get a crunch from the mange too. Really delicious. Definitely give this one a go and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. For another one pot recipe, check out this video.